relationship with Henry Cejudo was very different. I could grab Henry by the elbow, shove his shoulder up into his ear, and walk him across the room on his tiptoes and go give him tough love. He would respect that from me. He would listen to me. Henry wants to know everything. Henry's a very curious guy. And Henry wants to know everything. He wants to know about the business. He wants to know about contracts. He wants to know about marketing and promotion. He wants to know about techniques. Henry wants to know everything. He's a very, very curious person, which is great. The first sign of intelligence is, are you curious? Are you curious about something? Do you want knowledge? The answer with Henry is yes. And I haven't reached out to him. I'm going to. But I haven't done it yet because I don't know exactly what Henry is after. I am not convinced. I felt the retirement to be insincere. That doesn't mean I'm right. It doesn't mean I'm right. Henry is also stubborn, and the greats are. The greats have to be. You cannot take no for an answer. Henry's never taken no for an answer. He finds a way. Every walk of life, every age of life, he has found a way. He's even changed sports. There was a time if you were a great wrestler, boom, just by default, you were going to be great in MMA. That time ended in a year called 2001. That is not what has happened here. Henry, to the highest of levels, is a two-sport athlete. He gets the same credit as when Bo Jackson would go play football and then walk onto the diamond with a bat in his hand. It is two totally different sports. He is a great athlete. He has found a way to succeed in two different sports of two different rules in three different weight classes. It's very remarkable, but to act as though he's not stubborn and set in his ways and demanding and puts his feet that you can't get there without doing those things. The thing with Henry throughout his curiosity of the sport, and to watch him evolve and watch what a great job he did. Look, there was nights when if Henry got 20,000 to show up and 20,000 to win, he's on his knees thanking God in heaven above for such a beautiful contract. Henry was able to operate within the confines of the sport and find a better way. Find a much better way. Henry's trainers and coaches and managers aren't even getting that kind of money. They're getting big money. There's big money in this for Henry, but he also sees a value in himself. Now, if I was to talk to Henry and I do find out that he is sincere about wanting to walk away for financial reasons, okay? If you've had enough of the sport, you've had enough of the sport. The guy beating his whole life, frankly, he doesn't know you or I anything. He did at one point. At one point, we needed him to go to the World Championships. We needed him to go to the Olympic Games. We needed him to try his hand in mixed martial arts. Then we needed him to come back and try to get... Henry has given us all enough. But if we're greedy and we still want a little sprinkle on top of that sundae, we're going to have to talk to Henry and say, look, Henry, you need to understand you have a very beautiful contract. And you have a very rare contract. You are the highest paid athlete, 135 pounds or below, of all time. So please do not feel disrespected by the dollar amount. Nobody, you, me, nobody wants to be told by somebody else what they're worth. It's not nice. It's not a good feeling. But Henry's is a little bit different. When I tell you he has a very beautiful contract, not only does he get a rate to show up with bonus opportunities, he has a built-in mechanism in his contract as the champion for back-end money, which means exclusively pay-per-view. I would sit Henry down and tell him, there is no more fair way to possibly do business than that. To give that to your champion. You are now giving... Henry literally owns a piece. Henry literally owns a piece of UFC 249. He is a partner, which, by the way, did not have to put out any capital. None. The pay-per-view component of giving guys points is something that never needed to be part of the industry, just was. It just all of a sudden one day came out as an incentive to rise up. In the process of rising up, it's an incentive that there is built-in mechanisms, media and PR and marketing-wise, for the guys that are headlining cards. Go out there and do your level best to do a good job. Inspire people, motivate people, and also inform people. This is the date, this is how to watch, and this is why I think you should do those things. Not rocket science. But it is a built-in mechanism as an incentive within our industry. So if you have one of those contracts, you're in a very beautiful spot and you're in a more than fair spot. Now, here's the question. If all of that comes in this big, beautiful contract and you still aren't satisfied with the numbers, what do you do? Do you hold out? Do you march yourself into Dana's office? Do you retire in the cage and try to strong arm publicly? Do you do those things? It's an option. It's not one that I could point to or that I would advise just because history says it doesn't generally work. That's an option. I would take Henry in a different direction. I would say, Henry, you're this close to having everything figured out. Now you need the manipulation. When you're a curious guy that goes out there and garners information and knowledge, you garner that information and knowledge so that you can then manipulate it. Manipulate seems to be a very dirty word. It's also the accurate word. I will give you an example. If you have points, which Henry does, very rare, very, very rare, really exclusive to champions. I could name 2 other guys through history that weren't champions that got the points. There could have been more. I could name for you 2. When you have that, your goal is now to get placement on the right card. When George St. Pierre was round, those of us that had points made sure we manipulated to get on a card with George St. Pierre. Okay? When Brock Lesnar was around, you would manipulate and you would finagle and you would organize and you would strategize. Perhaps you had to call Brock directly. Perhaps you had to go to a manager. Perhaps you had to get inside information, some friend that you have in the office to find the date that Lesnar's going to fight on, find yourself a dance partner, and make sure you get stuck on the same day. That is ultimately how you would manipulate a contract that offers you points. You don't have to go do all the heavy lifting on your own. For example, if Henry doesn't love the numbers that him and Marlon did, by example, I don't know whether he likes them, if he doesn't, don't forget that was the main event. Henry gets those points. He could go as low down as a co-main event as long as it's a world title fight, and he happens to be the world champion. So he gets put on a card which had Ferguson and Khabib. That was going to be a massive juggernaut of a fight. Now, without Khabib, it still turned into a massive juggernaut of a fight. So Henry was in a position, whatever money he thinks he wants to get, he not only would have got that money, by my deductions, he would have gotten a little bit more. He would have gotten more, but it's also fair because now he's participated. If it bombs, he shouldn't just get a check. I think we can all agree on that. If it does really well and he wants to participate, and the boss has signed off on it, well, a deal's a deal. So before Henry walks away, I would just offer, Henry, you have done everything right. You have created a character, you have created a gimmick, you have gone on to win championships, you have headlined events, you have sold out arenas, you're moving t-shirts, people love you. Don't give up just yet. There's still a part of this business that you're missing. And manipulation to the highest of levels. You think Conor McGregor won't take your phone call, Henry? Conor McGregor will respect you, 100%. Have you reached out to Conor yet? Just by example. Hey, Conor, it's Henry. I need to talk to you. I need a favor. You know when you're going to fight next. You know what the date is. I need to be tipped off. Can you help me? Yes or no? If you come at Conor like that, Conor's going to give you one word, and the answer is going to be yes, and he's going to respect it. Then you go manipulate, and you hustle, and you make your own moves behind the scenes, and you make sure you're the co-main of a Conor McGregor card. Let Conor go do the goddamn heavy lifting, and you cash the check. And I assure you, if you get participation on a Conor card, you are going to make exponentially more than what it is you are asking for. I know the number that Henry's asking for. We're not all that far off. But we're also not together yet. There's ways to not only get that, but to exceed it. But it takes a little thinking. Going to take some groundwork, but there's ways to do that. There's ways to operate within the contract that you have right now that allows you participation, but it takes some strategy. Don't give that contract up. And be real careful putting a number on yourself. The only thing more dangerous than letting somebody else put a number on you is putting a number on yourself that caps out. Keep the participation, Henry. It is a beautiful world. It is a world that, in fairness, no fighter was ever entitled to, which is why it's in no fighter's contract. And once you win the strap, it's a policy, and it's meant out of respect, and they bring you in and tear up the old contract and allow you to have that. But it's a very rare thing, not one that's owed. Henry, you know the rules. You're starting to rewrite the book in many ways, but you're only on a couple of chapters. The final chapter, and the one you're yet to read, is titled Manipulation.